Yeah, hi there, everybody. It's Friday afternoon, the 24th of July, and I've just come back from my local shopping mall, little shopping mall with about 20, 24 shops in it, like maybe 20 shops in it. And I was up buying a copy of The Economist magazine, see what they had to say for themselves. And in January of, this is now July, in January there was one shop was vacant in the shopping mall. There are now four. So uh, I'm looking really at October, November, and we'd see what the situation is then. It should be, I don't know, good, bad, or different, but anyway, that's just the way that the situation is here in Ireland at the moment. Uh, I went up to get a copy of The Economist magazine because the major thrust of the, obviously it's an economy, it's a magazine given over to economics, general economic theory, etc. And one of the major articles that's in it is quite interesting. Uh, it deals with uh, the the economists who deal with macroeconomics, who deal with the sort of worldview, and these would be the men who would be putting the ideology into the governments, Western governments, which got us into this situation. And basically, what it's saying is that they're all in meltdown. It shows you here. It says that modern economic theory is in meltdown, and it doesn't surprise me. One of the things they quote is from a man called Paul Krugman, who I understand won the Nobel laureate last year for economics, and he cites the National Bureau of Economic Research, which is the American National Bureau, and he cites the fact that between 1985 and the year 2000, there were approximately 7,000 papers done on various aspects of the capitalist model that we live in. Various papers done on it. Now, these papers would have been done by professors, doctors, men with PhDs, guys with master's degrees in the subject. So they would be obviously quite erudite and quite, from an academic point of view, quite talented. And of those 7,000 papers dealing with the economic model, five, only five papers dealt with fiscal or monetary policy. So I think that tells us a lot. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to draw an analogy or an allegory between, the model. These men all work on models. These economic, that's how they do it. They draw up models and they put these models under stress with computers and draw inputs and outputs out of them. And based on all how the model performs, they make predictions about the future, how the capitalist model will work. And at the core of this whole thing seems to be an extraordinary situation. And what it reminds me, as I say, I'd like to draw an analogy between their academic economic model and, let's say, engineers who would have a car engine and they would have it up in a test bed. And so, if we're to believe this article, between 1985 and 2000, these engineers wrote 7,000 papers on testing this car, this engine, this car engine. And they did it from all aspects. They did it from the size of the pistons, the constraints of the engine, the injectors, the size of the injectors, the electronic controls for overheating, all. But only five of the papers were about the thing that is at the core of the engine, and that's the oil that makes the engine run. Only five of the papers were about the oil. And that's what's happened here. What happened here is all these boys, from what I can see, this seems to be some sort of an innocent approach to what was going on. I'm actually a lot more cynical, but however, if we're just to deal with what these boys say in defense of themselves, they say they didn't have their eye. These are guys who have professorships in this subject. These are guys who have studied this subject all their lives. And they had an economic model, and at the core of that economic model is money, M-O-N-E-Y, But they didn't have their eye on the money. They had their eye on the thing called the market in all its aberrations. The equity markets, the forex markets, the commodity markets, the gilts markets. They had their eye on those things. And they said their theory is you don't need to worry about the fiscal and monetary aspect of the market. It's self-regulatory. Capitalism is such a wonderful thing. It regulates itself. Oh yeah. What about a thing called greed? What about moving the market to your own advantage? Do these people, do these men who are sitting in these ivory towers and these postgraduate fellows doing postgraduate studies, are they living in a parallel universe? Modern capitalism is only based on one thing and one thing only. And Gordon Gekko said it. Greed. That's all it's based on. Nothing else. Globalization is only based on one thing. Greed. And now we see the product of all that greed and what's happened and how that's built up over the last 10 to 15 years. Anyway, I'd like to deal with another thing very, very quickly. The national debt here. I have from the Irish Central Statistics Office. Again, the Irish external debt increases to 1.69 trillion at the end of March. That's in euros. And I've just done a quick thing here. 4% of that is 72 billion euros. So every year, the people that have this debt, which is the government and the big financial institutions, have to find approximately 45% of our GDP and give it over to other people outside of this country. So 45% of our GDP is going to go outside before we do anything with the rest of it. All right? And I'd like to, I have to find out about this. I'm going to email them and find out about this, and I'll get back to you about that. But it says here, there's a little qualifying note about Ireland's external debt. And this is from the Central Statistics Office. And it says, it should be noted that much of this external debt is offset by holdings of foreign financial assets by Irish residents. To find out what that means, that's an interesting thing. Anyway, I've really dealt with a few little things I want to say today, and I'll get back to you very, very shortly. Thank you very much.